Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you are interested in watching the ones before this, because today we're doing our 70 through 61 of our top 100 movies of the decade. So if you're interested in going back and looking at the other three, right? Three we've done.
We're not even halfway yet.
Yeah. You go back and look at the other three we've done. We'll put a link in the description below. We'll put probably something up here to the last one we had so you can watch the ones before that as well.
And also we're going to put a list of disclaimers that we have just so we don't have to go over them like we did the first video.
And then before we get into our number 70, we're going to start off with our honorable mention.
I have special eyes.
For my honorable mention, I'm going to do 21 Jump Street, which is a movie that really seemed like a bad idea from the beginning because it was once a TV show, a very serious TV show, that was turned into a straight up kind of dumb comedy. But the directors of this movie, what are their names called?
What are the names called?
Yeah.
They're called names.
Shut up. But the directors of this movie, Chris Miller and Phil Lord, have proven themselves before to be able to get a bad idea and make it into a good movie that's actually really hilarious.
For my honorable mention for this video, I have The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. And I've read this series, the trilogy of books, and this was my favorite book of the series, and it's also my favorite movie. The first third, you see the beginnings of the rebellion, and then you see them being thrown back into the Hunger Games, and it's done in a way that feels very natural. It doesn't feel like they're just redoing the first movie.
The first one could have been better for the shaking hand.
Yeah.
God awful shaking hand.
It's ridiculous.
For my number 70, I'm gonna go with A Star Is Born, which is a devastating tale starring Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, who have some amazing chemistry. It really just shows the dark side of becoming famous at times and just the tragic things that can happen.
For my number 70, I have Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. And I've really loved both Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies, but the first one came out in 2009, I think, so I couldn't include it in this list. But this one is really great too. You have Jared Harris playing Moriarty, which is a really great villain for Sherlock Holmes. They're pretty much equals when it comes to their intelligence.
What is it, 69?
Yeah.
My number 69 is going to be Three Billboards Outside of I said but there's no in the title. So it threw me off. I was like, my part of my brain told me to stop, Marquez.
Yeah. It's a long title, but not that long.
My number 69 is going to be Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. I said outside Ebbing, Missouri. There you go. And this is a movie. It's also a movie. It's pretty much a tragic tale. It goes into the story about a mom who loses her daughter, and she really hates that the cops haven't really put the effort that they should into finding her murder. And it's just about this woman just trying to almost in a way force the cops by embarrassing them and putting up three billboards in order to let it know what they're doing. And this movie just has some pretty amazing and beautiful scenes and some great acting by Frances McDormand and Woody Harrelson and Sarah Rockwell.
At 69, I have Toy Story 4, and this is a movie that I wasn't really sure on how I felt before it came out. And when it was first announced, I didn't really like the idea of them continuing the Toy Story movies after Toy Story 3 ended so perfectly. But after it came out, it really showed exactly why it needed to be made. It showed that there wasn't really a conclusion to Woody's character, specifically, and there's really more stories to be told that really continued and finished off his arc.
My number 68 is going to be The Revenant, and even though I really don't think that Leonardo DiCaprio should have won the Oscar for this, he did do really good. Even with the lack of dialogue that he had, he does very well, especially with more of his expressive facial expressions, his emotional acting. And this movie is an extremely intense movie that really is decently slow overall, but it really just does take its time with this, and it just really adds to the intensity by the end of the movie.
For my number 68, I have Man of Steel, and I know a lot of people really have mixed opinions on the DCEU movies. This is a movie that really kicked off this entire universe, and I feel like it's a really great beginning. It's a great origin story to Superman. They really made Superman more humanized than he really is in a lot of stories. Which I know a lot of people didn't really like, but I actually really like that aspect.
My number 67 is going to be Nocturnal Animals, and it's really hard for me to put in words why this movie is so great, other than just just me telling you to watch it. I can tell you why. I can tell you that the acting's really good and the story's really well done, but you don't realize until the very end why the story is so well done.
For my number 67, I have Baby Driver, and this is an Edgar Wright movie, and he's really great at making these movies that are really fast-paced, and he adds so much little details that you might not see on first watch, and it's really a well choreographed movie because he really adds these music elements, and the movements of their actors, they match up with the music, and just overall, it's a really fast-paced, enjoyable movie.
My number 66 is going to be Super 8, which, like Zach said in the previous video, it's like the Stranger Things before Stranger Things. It's a... Whoa.
Did you just win the lottery?
You have a group of kids who come together and they start realizing different government secrets and different things like that. It's kind of a monster film. But the one thing I love about this movie is just the chemistry between the kids, and also the fact that it's kind of hard to find so many great kid actors for one film. A lot of times you'll have movies where there's a kid actor, and the kid actor is probably the only bad actor in the movie. But in this movie, you have a ton of great children actors.
My number 66 is Inside Out, and this is a Pixar movie that really deals with emotions and how emotions affect everybody. And it's a really great movie, especially for kids, to really understand how some emotions you need to let in, even negative emotions like sadness. For our number 65, we both have Spotlight, and this is a movie that deals with the newspaper who broke the story of the sexual abuse that the Catholic Church was doing against children. And it really shows the process that newspapers have to go through when they're dealing with a case this big, and they have to get like every detail correct before they make the story public, because they know that the church is going to have an immediate response.
Yeah.
So they have to have all their details perfect.
Yeah, and what I loved about this is it didn't, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things they didn't put in there just for time's sake, but I do like that it did actually have scenes where they're talking to the adults and it showed their conversation to where it didn't really sugarcoat it. It told everything that these priests did to these children, you know? And it's kind of a thing where it's hard to listen to because it's terrible, but it's a thing that needs to be in there, and it needs to be said, needs to be known. My number 64 is going to be Molly's Game, which is directed by Aaron Sorkin. It's directed by Aaron Sorkin. It is his directorial debut, and he does very well for this. I mean, he has written movies, so he does understand the process, but he hasn't directed, so he does really good in this movie. I love the editing of this film, especially the beginning. It's very quick paced, the beginning. All the editing is just chop, 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 just right there, coming all at you at one time. And it's kind of a lot, but it comes at you to where you're able to listen to and understand it. This movie has some amazingly acted scenes, very emotionally driven, some with Idris Elba and Jessica Chastain whenever they're in his office. And you've seen the trailer, the "It's My Name" scene or whatever. And then there's a beautiful scene between Kevin Costner and Jessica Chastain talking about their father-daughter relationship.
For my 64, I have It Follows, and like Marquez said in a previous video, this movie, if you just listen to the plot of this movie, it sounds really stupid, and I can understand if you're not interested in watching it. But really, once you watch it, you realize just how creepy they do it. The execution is perfect. For our number 63, we both have Get Out, which is Jordan Peele's directorial debut. This is honestly one of the most unsettling ideas for a horror movie.
Yeah. Just
this thought of like somebody taking over your body and just like controlling you for the rest of your life without you having any control but still being conscious. Just it's really unsettling to think about.
Yeah, and there's a lot of scenes that just really up the creep factor of this film. Also the acting from everyone. Daniel Kaluuya. Before this movie, I didn't really see him in anything. And really after seeing this movie, I was like, man, he needs to be in a lot more stuff. I love the brother of the girl. I know he's been in a few things.
Yeah, he was actually in 3 billboards.
Yeah, that's right.
Missouri,
yeah,
and the Florida Project.
Yeah, honestly, like his acting is pretty amazing in this movie overall. My number 62 is going to be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is an animated Spider-Man film, and the animation in this movie I love. I've seen some people not like it. Even before the movie came out, I was kind of worried about the animation. It looked kind of weird. But it was a way to pull off something that looked like a comic book, but not so much like a comic book, kind of like, you know, you got like Ang Lee's Hulk that tried to look too much like a comic book, but this one kind of find a nice little happy medium in it. The voice acting is amazing, and just some really overall great scenes, some really emotional scenes that I didn't really realize they were gonna have in this movie. And I also loved how they never really explicitly said it, but they also dealt with depression and how Spider-Man actually has depression in this film because of how much of a failure he feels like he is.
My number 62, it might be a controversial one, but I have Frozen. I know a lot of people are tired of this movie, but honestly, I don't have like younger siblings or children, so it didn't really get overplayed. The songs didn't really get overplayed for me, so it didn't really get on my nerves as much as it did for a lot of people. But it really had a pretty great story, a pretty great message of how you don't want to rush into things with people before you really get to know them.
My number 61 is going to be Looper, which is a Rian Johnson film that I saw quite a while back. And it's one of the reasons why I was surprised at how bad he did on the new Star Wars movie. But this movie is really good. It's a great time travel movie. And I know there's probably gonna be people nitpicking it because you can nitpick a time travel movie to death easily. But I really feel like it does really well with it. And honestly, this movie, I just absolutely love the ending of this film.
My 61 is Parasite, and this movie is actually the movie that just won Best Picture for 2019. And it's the first international, foreign movie to win Best Picture. It's all subtitled. It's from South Korea, and it deals with a lot of class issues, but it does it in a way that's not really in your face. It's obvious, the message is obvious, but it's not super in your face. It's very subtle in ways, and it doesn't really show that one side is more evil than the other. It's just a movie that really just has a story, and it does it without shoving messages in your face.
Well guys, there it is. That is our 70 through 61 out of our 100 movies of the decade. Like I said, if you're interested in watching our other ones, we'll put a link in the description below for our past ones. Also, if you don't want to watch those movies at all and you just want to go from here, we'll put a link, well, not a link, we'll put in the description below both of our lists so far.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at 2 Awesome Men.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see us later.